All right, 2 preseason games done, 1 left to go, Rube.
Yeah, and I think I'm turning it to Nick Sirianni, where I just kind of enjoy the joint practices more than the games.
Well, more players play in the joint practices as opposed to the game, so that's pretty easy to figure out.
And the better ones play in the joint practices. So I
Yeah,
guess that's inevitable. Yeah.
that's true. All right, this is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Yeah, none of the starters played in this one except for, I guess, Quez Watkins was out there. Jordan Davis played, if you consider him a starter. But for the most part, all the guys you know and love didn't play in this game.
No, all the guys I love did play in this game.
Yeah, Marvin Wilson, Devin Allen. We'll talk about all of them.
But yeah, and I think it works out well in that the starters can get really good work at practice, and then the reserves and the guys trying to make the team and impress the coaches can get their work on Sunday. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, it really does. Where should we start? Let's start with the first drive from the offense. They get the ball. Gardner Minshew starts this game. Gardner Minshew played more than I thought he would, by the way. Obviously, no Jalen Hurts, but I bet you that second team offensive line the Eagles put out there might be better than some starting units across the league.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they really imposed their will. They just, it was kind of like last year. They just ran the ball with Boston Scott going down the field. Obviously, they're going to be really vanilla. But it is fun to watch those guys, and Dillard and Sua and Jack Anderson and Driscoll, obviously Cam Jurgens in the middle of it, who I consider him a starter too, even though he won't be when the season starts.
He could be,
you kind of look at him like a starter. Yeah, he's as good as a starter. So I'll tell you what, that the first play of the game, Cam Jurgens, I mean, it was just running down the field, obliterating people. I think Boston Scott had a bit, it was a big run. He might, I don't want to get too carried away with Cam Jurgens, but like he's closer to being a Pro Bowl center than like a lot of like veteran guys, who've started a lot of games. I mean, you don't want to go crazy with this stuff, but I mean, he's so athletic. I mean, I don't know, the play I'm talking about. I mean, he and Sua pulled, and I mean, he's just so quick, and he uses the quickness to get in position to use his strength to just overpower people. So all Boston had to do was run behind this huge hole that these guys opened up for him. That was maybe the most striking thing to me, was just how good that, like, we know individually they're all good backups. Driscoll's a solid backup. We know these guys are. But as a group, I mean, they played just really well together today. Those, while they were in the game, which wasn't that long.
So if all the starting offensive linemen get lost on the way to a game, Eagles will be okay.
Well, they'd be in the same bus as the backups.
No, what if they just took a car together? They carpooled. They got it like an Uber XL, and they didn't make it to the stadium.
If it makes you happy for me to say, then yes, they'd be in good hands. Yes,
I wasn't going to give that up. You can see it, which I appreciate. I thought they looked really good. I thought Minshew looked fine. He had the one play. It was a bad pass. He almost got picked, and it almost was a pick six. Right. He said that was actually the Browns gave him that look during the practice week and then changed it up in this game. But I thought Minshew looked fine. They had quite a few players that could start for other teams.
Yeah, Minshew's funny because he's kind of unorthodox. He doesn't always throw a perfect spiral. He's just different. He's just a different kind of cat, and like when you talk to him, you feel like you're like interviewing somebody in Warren Haynes band or something. He's just like, yeah, man. Yeah, it was really cool, man. Oh man, we had like a 3rd and 5, man. It was dope. But yeah, he played well enough, and they're fine if he's got.
Look, we also understand the Browns didn't play their starters, so it's it's not like they went out there against a legitimate starting defense either. But I thought they looked fine, and there are still individual performances to highlight.
Yeah, no question about it. And yeah, if he's got to play a couple games like he did last year, you're fine with it.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, like I think there's a pretty big gap between him and Reed Sinnett. I know Reed has gotten some second team practice reps because he has had a pretty decent camp, but he's really leveled off recently. I thought he got off to a really great start, and Minshew really struggled early in camp, but those have kind of reversed a little. I mean, it's pretty clear that there's a gap.
Yeah, big gap. Um, I'd like to see Carson Strong play a little more. I mean, he played at the end. He handed off a few times. And he had the one pass that should have been a DPI. I don't know what the heck the guy was looking at, but
It wasn't a great pass, but it's like
it was not a great pass. It's also the first pass he's ever thrown in the NFL.
yeah.
But it was clearly, obviously, I mean, guy had. It's not just because it's Devin Allen. I mean, it was just, it was just. Yeah, it was a bad call. But anyway, I'd like to see him play more. I'd like to see.
I was surprised. I thought he'd play quite a bit in this game, and I mean, if the Browns would have gone on a long drive at the end of the game, he doesn't touch the field.
Yeah, and look, I mean, giving him one drive where you're just kind of trying to run out the clock is not really getting an honest look at what he can do.
And it's not like he gets reps in practice either. Like this guy, I wonder what Howie's thinking.
They gave him $320,000.
Yeah.
If you like him enough to give him that much money, then give him some reps.
Even if he stinks, like let him get out there in a game and at least show people that he stinks. If that's the case, because I would imagine in the last game it'll probably be Reed Sinnett for a half and Carson Strong for a half. If I were him, when they were calling all those handoffs, I would have changed the plays.
Audible out.
You're going to cut anyway. You might as well go out throwing the ball.
Yeah. I don't think that's his nature. He was so good in college, and I know it's college, but I just want. I mean, the knock on him was his health and his knees, and his inability to move. So I don't see what not playing him accomplishes at this point. It's not like you can. I mean, nobody's going to claim him. I mean, they could have drafted him in the 7th round. It's not like he's given anybody more of a reason to claim him. But I just don't really understand why it hasn't been a fair fight for that 3rd spot.
And I've heard some people say they're hiding him. Well, then they're hiding him from themselves too, because he doesn't throw the ball in practice.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Want to just highlight a few guys who stood out for the right and wrong reasons in this game?
Yep. Sure. Let's do that. I was going to say, I mean, it's just in general, I was disappointed in that second defensive group.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to see some, and there's guys in that group who are going to play, who are going to be in the rotation, and you'd like to see it a little more. Josh Dobbs is a guy who's been around forever. I mean, I think he was drafted in 2017, so I mean, he's been in and out of the league for a long time. He's an experienced guy, but he shouldn't be driving up and down the field, like he did. That was there were too many guys open, missed tackles, guys out of position.
You'd like to see more resistance, at least.
Like to see more resistance and somebody make a play. And we saw some later with the threes, but that was disappointing to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we'll get into some of those individual players who had a chance to make plays and just didn't. But let's start off on a positive note. Some guys who stood out. I'll give you Deion Kane, who we've talked about quite a bit. He's making plays, and I don't think he's going to make the roster, but it's going to be a tough cut. And you hope you get him back to the practice squad if that happens.
Yeah, and again, if you are able to trade Rager for anything, then you keep Kane. I don't think they'll cut Rager to keep Kane, but I don't think they would mind trading Rager and keeping Kane.
I just envisioned Howie calling down, get 18 the ball, please.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. So, and we've seen this from Deion Kane throughout training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the same way in Indianapolis in training camp from what people said. He had great camps there. Good size. He went up. I thought he was really aggressive going after the ball today. Those back-to-back, big gains on the right sideline.
Back shoulders. I mean, he said him and Gardner have really gotten that rapport built because they were on the not practice squad, but they were, he was running practice squad and Gardner was running scout team some of the time. So they built that rapport and it shows. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you do with him. You don't have a role for him, but he's having a heck of a preseason.
Yeah. How about a name from you? Someone who stood out for the right reasons.
For the right reasons. Jaquaski Tart made some plays finally, and it was
Yeah.
later in the game. He had that real nice. I think it was him on fourth down. On that fourth down,
He was in on that. Yeah.
I think Mario Goodrich was in on it as well. But it's been a tough stretch for him. He comes in, new team. He's been with the same team his whole career. Comes in, new system. Then he missed a good week with personal reasons. He comes back, didn't play in the first game. It's just been a rocky stay here. We haven't seen plays from him in practice, but I thought this afternoon he made two or three, probably three pretty impressive impact type plays. A couple broke up one pass, had a nice tackle after a short gain, and then had that stop on fourth down. So there's so many questions at safety, and there's really just you're just looking for somebody to separate themselves from the pack, and that was good stuff from him today. It was good to see.
Yeah, because you look back at even what he did last year in San Francisco, and that version of him, he can help you. It's just like at a certain point he has to show it, or you're keeping him based on what he's done before he got here. I don't know if he can do that.
Yeah, you're right, and I can imagine this. I mean, he came in here late. He had to learn a new scheme, and then he missed some significant time. And we don't know what's going on in his life. To be in that situation, fighting for a roster spot, and to take several days off for personal reasons, there's something going on in his life too that he's got. So there's a lot that he's dealing with, and it hasn't been an easy run for him. So that was encouraging today.
Yeah, that was. Is it my turn?
Yes.
I'll give you Josh Jobe.
Yeah.
He made a big open field tackle, and then he had that big pass breakup in the end zone. I mean, he's playing himself onto this roster right now.
I thought he might have been able to pick that ball off. It looked like he was just trying to knock it down, but it was either way. It was a good play.
Man, you're really nitpicking here.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, it was good coverage. Go for the pick. Go for the pick. They don't have a sack or a pick in the two preseason games, which isn't a big deal. They're not game planning. They're vanilla. They're not blitzing. But yeah, it was a nice play.
Go ahead. Give me another standout.
Oh, gee, I can't really think of anyone.
I'm surprised. What is this? Minute 12, minute 13, and we're finally getting there?
Well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying not to force it. I'm just trying to let the game come to me and just go with my reads. But Devin Allen finally showed up, and we haven't seen him make a play like that in practice. So it's the first time he's looked fast. And
I agree with you.
And it was going to take some time, and to think what 6 years. His last game was Oregon, Virginia in September of 16. He caught 4 passes for 141, and he only played 3 games in 16. In 2016, he got hurt a week later. So, maybe we're a little impatient, and everyone was down on him because he just wasn't doing anything. And but he ran a nice route, and he was up against former Eagle camp hand, Lavert Hill. Made a nice move to get open, and finally kind of saw that speed. And when you're confident, when you're starting to, feel comfortable, then you look faster. If you're tentative, if you don't really know where you're supposed to be, where you're doing what you're doing, you don't really feel comfortable, you're not going to look fast. And he made a really nice catch. Not only did he get open, run a nice route, made a nice catch.
He had to track that one.
Yeah, he really did a nice job tracking it and holding on to it when he hit the ground. I think he's got to retire the celebration.
You don't like that?
I don't know.
That's an elite celebration.
You think?
The Olympic hurdler hurdling after catching a touchdown?
I don't know. It's like you're a football player now. You're just like I see what you're saying. I don't know.
I mean, that's an incredible flex that no one else in the league has.
I guess I'm just like, imagine if he pulled a hammy doing that.
I mean, there are other celebrations where you can get hurt too. Guys do backflips.
Yeah, they do. That freaks me out too. Like you get hurt doing that. But no, I guess so. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being old fashioned, but it was good to see.
Hand the ball to the ref.
No, it was good to see, and it was a great throw by a quarterback who hasn't made a whole lot of those lately, um, and great protection too, by the way, to allow it to happen. But um, did you have a chance to talk to Devin Allen in the locker room by any chance?
I did not.
Yeah.
Other people did. I know John Clark was there, so I didn't go because I knew we'd have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's got to be gratifying for him because I know there's some frustrating days. There are days you can't even get a rep.
Yeah,
and so to be
it
able to
felt like
do
it was
that,
building for him though. This week he started to make some plays at practice, and they weren't like major plays, but even like the play on special teams where he did hurdle a man in celebration, but like he felt like he had a swagger to him that you can't have a swagger when you're making mistakes and you're not making plays, but it felt like it had been building to this a little bit.
I think that's fair, and he had a really nice catch in one-on-ones on. Gosh, I don't remember what day it was. I think it was Friday.
Right.
It was Lavert Hill, so I guess he felt comfortable working against him. But I think that's fair. I think he has small steps, and this was a big one. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I'm thinking there's no reason to even keep him on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
You see a play like that, what he's capable of doing with that speed, and okay, let's be patient with him.
Yeah. I'll give you one more. Jack Anderson.
Yeah, how about Jack Anderson?
He had a good game, and I think he has a really good shot to make this team. It'll depend on how many linemen they keep, but I mean, he started the game at guard, then he spelled Cam Jurgens at center, and there were no issues with him snapping the ball, which is always something you watch when you have your third string center, but he could be a valuable player to keep around.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because I was impressed with him during the game, and he was a guy who was here last year and wasn't awful. I mean, he's a guy who was drafted. I believe the Bills drafted him, late round guy last year. Mm-hmm. So he was good enough to get drafted. I forget where he played. Texas A&M, Texas Tech, one of them. But I liked what I saw from him. And I'll tell you what, I feel like you could take any 7th round pick from another team who got cut, practice squad, and give him a year with Stout, and he's going to be good. It's unreal.
Texas Tech, by the way.
I'm sorry?
Texas Tech.
Yeah. It's unreal what Stout can do with late round picks, undrafted guys who, were cut by another team. Just give them a year in Camp Stout, and all of a sudden they're good. I haven't seen many. Been around some great assistant coaches, but position coaches. I haven't seen a lot of guys who can. I don't know if I've seen anyone who can do what Stout does.
Yeah. Anyone else on the good side of things you want to highlight?
No, I think those are all good ones. I mean, there were a few others, but I mean, it was good to see Gainwell. They didn't throw to him, and that's really been the issue. Has been his drops, but he did not have a good day.
Boston played well.
Yeah, and it was good to see something positive from him because he really hasn't had a great camp.
No, I think Boston Scott's outplayed him during camp, and I think everyone wants him to have a role, like a big role. It's been a little shaky, and I think people want him that they want him to take that step, and he hasn't really done that. So it was nice to see him get some big chunks, at least on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, negative. I'll kick it off.
Yeah.
I thought Davion Taylor had an awful game.
Yeah.
And he's someone who we've talked about on the positive side for a lot of camp. Just making plays, looked a lot more comfortable in year 3, but man, he had trouble getting off blocks. He was missing tackles. It just wasn't good.
He got faked out on one. I think it was on that first drive, Brown's first drive, where he just got faked out and was so far out of the play. It was disappointing. Yeah. And I'll follow that with Kayvon. I thought Kayvon struggled today, this afternoon. I keep wanting to say tonight, but I think that whole second.
It's weird having an afternoon preseason game.
Yeah. I keep thinking tonight, and then I look at
it's light out still here.
Yeah, it's strange. But but yeah, I thought he had a tough time. And again, I was really trying to focus as much as possible on the safeties. I thought actually the new guy actually made a couple plays. The new guy actually, Uga Kuchwa Amadi.
Ugo Amadi.
But his full name was Uga.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Ugo. I'm going Ugo.
All right. He actually made a couple plays.
Yeah, I talked to him after the game a little bit.
Good. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was tough day for Kayvon, for Davion, for a lot of those guys in the second group.
Even Andre Sachere.
He had a tough day. Yeah.
He had that one nice tackle by the goal line, but he missed the sack. He got beaten coverage. And you look at those. So him and Josiah Scott have basically like flipped. Halfway through camp, the safety became the nickel. Excuse me, the nickel became the safety. And Josiah has handled that much better.
That's fair. Although he had a couple plays he struggled on today, Josiah Scott. But Sachere did make a nice play down at the one. It was real physical. It looked like I guess it was the quarterback, right? It looked like he had an angle to get in, and he stuffed him and got him out of bounds. But he had a tough time. Really, that whole second group, there really wasn't a lot to be excited about. And some of those guys actually played on that first drive of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, like even guys who we really talked up on this podcast, like Tron Jackson eventually had a decent rush, but I didn't think he or Patrick Johnson had memorable games.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And you'd like to see them do something going against backups, because these are guys who we expect to play.
Right, and they're playing against 2s and 3s, and we've been talking them up because of what they do in practice, and they let us down because they go out in a game when everyone can watch. He's no good. And these guys are talking them up. But all we can do is tell you what they do in practice, and then, then it's disappointing if they don't carry it over into the field. But that happens a lot. I mean, it happens with a lot of guys. I thought Patrick Johnson had a tough time, and he's been really, really good. I can't think of anyone in the second group who, I didn't see McPherson. I thought McPherson was okay. They really went the other way. But other than that, it was not an impressive showing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, McPherson was up first because no.
Right.
Yeah. More negative. We'll go a little more negative here. How about Jalen Reagor? This is an opportunity for him to play a bunch, maybe get himself traded to an opportunity somewhere else, help the Eagles out in the process. He had 2 catches for 17 yards on 4 targets. And on the one, he's kind of in the open field. He can't shake one defender.
He's just not good. You don't want to just beat up Jalen Reagor every podcast, but De'Aaron Cain is just so much better than him. And he just is. And this is year 3 for Reagor. And if we haven't seen it yet, we're not going to see it. And if I had to guess, I would think they're going to keep Reagor. I just still think it's a mistake. I think he needs a new start. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if he needs a new start because I don't think it's not like he's going to go somewhere else. I think J-Jaw has a better chance of going somewhere. Well, he's in Seattle, but I think J-Jaw has a better chance of being a functional NFL player than Reagor. I really do. Because I think his problems were just he lost his confidence here. I think physically he's, I just think Reagor just doesn't have it in him, where I think J-Jaw has it in him somewhere. He just can't get out.
Possibly. Yeah, I don't know. You got another negative for me?
Oh, Reed Sinnett. I don't know. He's just again. It was a great throw on the Devin Allen play. But I just don't see it. I don't see the decision making in the pocket. He just gets kind of swallowed up by the rush. Sometimes just stands there.
The strange thing is the reason the Eagles liked him so much last year is because he tore up the preseason, and that after the first preseason game this year. Nick Sirianni was mentioning, Reed was a little nervous about what? About returning to where he thrived last year?
That was a weird comment, and I probably let it go too much. I probably should made a bigger deal of it, but yeah, I don't see anything special. Look, he's got good size. I guess he's a smart kid. I just don't think there's anything there. I just don't see it. I'm always rooting for the back, the third string quarterback. You always root for that guy. Whether it's from Brad Gable to AJ Feely to, Casey Weldon, all my favorite guys.
All right, I'll give you one more negative, Rube. This might be a little bit of a cheap shot. Matt Leo. At what point do they stop this? And I don't want to be rude to him because I give him a ton of credit. He's the guy who, if you don't know, is international exemption, and it's a great story. He was a plumber in Australia, and he's part of the Pathway program.
He's going to be a plumber in the U.S. at this rate.
I was trying to avoid that, because I give him credit for trying it, but we're in year 3. Year 3, he's 30. At what point do they say this guy's never going to help us in a regular season game? We got to pull the plug.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no downside to it now because they have a roster exemption. It's not like he's taking anyone's spot. But you're right. He's like I was looking at this. He's like the 7th oldest player on the team.
Yeah,
it's kind of pointless. Yeah, it
feels that way. So, have you seen he had one pressure in this game, and it was the first time I've ever seen him. And outside of that, he kind of looks lost a lot. So,
yeah.
And I say all that with a grain of salt because we all get the situation. But yeah, you got any more?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
I'll give you one more. Kerry Vincent Jr. He's kind of really gotten. I thought he had as good a shot as anyone to win a roster spot, and he's really gotten buried behind just about everyone.
Yeah, really. I mean, those guys have all been kind of up and down. I don't think any of them have separated from the pack. Job had a good game.
I think Job's starting to separate.
Maybe he is. I thought he had a good game, but you're looking for guys who can string together a number of days, and whether it's Mac McCain or Ty Gowan or Kerry Vincent Jr., I don't see any of them kind of sticking out consistently yet. So,
really, I think Job has. I think he's been making plays consistently. They really like him, obviously, because he's been second team corner for a while now. I think he has a shot to make this roster over everyone. We're talking about the group after McPherson. We know McPherson's 4th, so we're talking, one of those last spots.
Yeah, you might be right. They sure seem to like him. I mean, I saw a couple plays today that, he didn't make, but I guess he's been the best out of the group. I just haven't been blown away by Josh Jobe, but he's okay. He does show up. He does make some plays.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him, honestly.
Okay.
You got anything else from this game we have to talk about?
I think we've exhausted it.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm glad they got it in. The rain here was pretty wild for a while.
Was it really?
It was raining really hard, and it started raining hardest after they took the tarp off the field. I'm hoping it's not going to rain as I walk back to my hotel when I leave here. We'll see.
Should we tell people the most interesting thing about the Cleveland trip?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, so we went out to dinner Thursday night, right? I think it was Thursday night.
Thursday night, yeah.
And so we split the tab. We have identical company credit cards, and we just gave them both to the server and asked her to just split it down the middle. And she comes back with like the little black folder with a invoice to sign and our cards. Puts one in front of Dave, one in front of me. We sign it, leave the tip, take our card, and make our way out of there. So I came back to Philadelphia to do the pregame show. Dave stayed in Cleveland. So Friday night, I went to see Guided by Voices at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was amazing. And then I drove about the first 2 hours back, so I wouldn't have to drive it all in one day. So I drove to Poland, Ohio, which is on the Penn State border. I got there about 1 a.m, and I check in, and the clerk is like, "Who's Dave Zangaro?" I said, what? You're like, who's Dave Zangaro? I said, he's my colleague, but why are you asking me this? And he holds up the credit card, the NBC Universal Visa card, and this is Dave Zangaro's card. And I'm like, what? And then I realized we had taken the wrong cards at dinner, and we never looked. And the thing was, I used your card at least 4 times in the interim and never saw that it was your card, just signed my name, and nobody made a big deal about it. And you used my card, I think, two or 3 times. So I still have your card. Well, your card is now, I'm not going to say where it is because somebody could just take it. But
thank you. I appreciate that.
It's in a safe, secure place where you'll be able to claim it tomorrow when you get back before you go to Miami on Tuesday. And I guess at some point I'll get my card back. But it's pretty funny that we never noticed. And we were using these cards for 2 days and never noticed that we had each other's cards.
Yeah. So, the downside of having identical cards.
And
how was the show? Was it good?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful night, big crowd. It was a lot of fun. They played like 3 hours.
Nice.
And it was a lot of fun. I saw a lot of friends. Our old friend Phil Sheridan used to work at the Enquirer, and ESPN was there with his wife.
Oh, good. And
a few other friends. My Ohio posse, saw them. So it was a good time. One thing, I took I-80 back instead of the Turnpike. And it's such a more pleasant drive than the Turnpike. It's easier. It's like 20 minutes farther, 25 minutes longer, but it's just so much nicer.
That's worth it.
Yeah. So it was a much more pleasant drive. So
all right.
So that's the travel log from the Eagle Eye podcast.
All right, let's wrap this up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button there and subscribe as well. That really does help us out. We appreciate all the support.
Oh, we went over 4 million podcast downloads. So thank you, everybody, for your support.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a fun number. All right. We appreciate everyone. We'll talk to you soon.